In the last satsang, the 11th verse that we did, the Lord advises to practice the quality of renouncing the fruit of action. Sarva karma palatyagam. Renunciation of fruit of all actions. So you may practice the quality of renouncing the fruit of a particular action or few selective actions. If you are able to renounce the fruit of action to maybe a few actions, but then what about the rest of actions? You may develop an anxiety for the fruit. You are attached to the result. Such undue concern to the outcome only causes restlessness. It destroys your mental peace. So to be able to practice this quality across all actions, one should be able to practice renunciation of fruit of all actions. Many people believe that when you renounce the fruit, the action suffers. In fact, action doesn't suffer. Action suffers when you develop an anxiety for the fruit. How the action suffers? Your mind shifts from the present course of action and goes into the future. And thereafter, the very fruit that you are seeking itself becomes an impediment to your performance of action. So whatever action you're performing, continue to perform without worrying about the outcome, without worrying about the fruit. But before you plunge into the action, you have to be very clear what you're seeking. You know, many suggestions keep coming. Each one brings their personality to the table. Each one brings their ideas to the table. Each one offers something they think that might enhance or lift the image or the service of the organization. But it's important for me to see whether it is aligned to the goal which I have envisioned, before I plunge into the action. While I am acting, there should not be any anxiety. Is it taking me to my goal? Though you must be aware, are your actions in line to the goal? There's a difference being constant check as to, am I acting in accordance to my goal vis-a-vis worrying about the future outcome? There is a distinct difference. When your intellect measures your action, one is your intellect measuring your action with reference to your goal. Another thing is the mind itself wanders into the future without control. So when the Shastras are advising, when the 11th verse here advises to renounce the fruit, it is uncontrollable nature of the mind which rushes into the future must be curbed. But when your intellect consciously examines your action, when your intellect measures your action with is it taking you towards your goal, whether you have to adapt. You know, one of the qualities of a successful person, you must be a good listener. You should be able to listen to people's ideas, at least lend your ears to others. If you are shut, what happens is then there's no scope for improvement, or you can't bring about a change in your actions. But that doesn't mean everything that is said you'll agree to. You don't fall a prey to everything that comes your way either. So In the context of renouncing the fruit of action, we said a yogi renounces the fruit of action. Before you become a yogi, you are a what are you before you become a yogi? Srinivas Garu, what are you before you become a yogi?
Practitioner.
What practitioner? Looks like there's a prayer going by nearby your place, is it?
Guruji, sorry.
Okay, no problem. More than you, the Pandit is answering what I'm asking. So glad you quickly muted yourself. Now, we said the lowest that you can practice is renounce the fruit of action. Now, before you renounce the fruit of action, before you are a yogi, what is one before he becomes a yogi? Vasantama, what are you before you become a yogi?
Bhogi.
Correct. You are a bhogi. A bhogi is one who is a materialistic person who is attached to his fruits of his action. He's interested only in the fruits of his action. He develops an anxiety for the fruits. He's attached to the fruits. So the lowest of practices in the 11th mantra, the 11th verse is being prescribed, is where you develop a spirit of renunciation to the fruit. As you evolve spiritually, superior to a yogi is a sannyasi. A sannyasi is the one who renounces the desire in action itself. One is to renounce the fruit of your action. It is yet another thing to renounce the fruit of your action. Renounce the desire in action. So superior to a yogi is a sannyasi, and superior to a sannyasi is a jnani. A jnani is one who has renounced all his desires. So it is difficult to renounce desires, but it's easier to renounce the fruits. That is what is being prescribed, what was prescribed in the 11th verse. Okay, so we'll just take the 12th verse, which ends the second topic, which talks about the progressive ways to reach God. And from the 13th to the 20th is the famous section where you get the 35 qualities of a devotee of God. So very soon we'll get into that, but the 13th verse, yeah. Shreyo hi jnanam abhyasat jnanadhyanam vishishyate dhyana karma phalatyagaha tyagachantiranantaram Shreyo hi jnanam abhyasat jnanadhyanam vishishyate dhyanat karma phalatyagaha tyagachantiranantaram. Don't worry, there is nothing wrong in the typo error. There is no typo error. Typing is perfect. So the verse says, knowledge is better than practice. Meditation is better than knowledge. Renunciation of fruit of action is better than meditation. And lastly, he says, Tyaga Shantim Anantaram. You may have heard me quoting this. This is the context. Peace immediately follows renunciation. So if there is lack of peace in your life, if you are not finding peace and contentment in your life, is because you are not able to inject this quality of renunciation, which is tyaga. The moment you inject that spirit of renunciation, instantly you find peace. In fact, the secret to attain the goal is to practice renunciation. So while acting, don't cling on to the fruit. While acting, renounce the fruit. The moment you renounce the fruit, you get the fruit. Talking of the context, the famous, I've said this before, but it is apt to say it again in the context. Lord Buddha has been immortalized of he lying on his side. What is that posture called? Is there a name for that posture? I can't ask Srinivas Garu because somebody else will be answering. He's our yoga guru. Shivaji Solungo, is there a name for the posture if you lie on your side like this? Yoga posture irka, pair irka adukku.
Yeah, it is got, in fact, we call it as Vishnu Asana also. Even
Lord
Vishnu
Vishnu also is lying like this, correct?
Yeah. Even Vishnu is in same posture. Yes.
Same posture. So Lord Buddha is immortalized in that posture. You see many of the places where Lord Buddha is actually captured in that posture. And the story behind it is, apparently he called all of his students one day and said, I don't think there's anything called a self-realization, because I don't think anybody would have put in as much effort as I have put. And it has eluded me. I don't think there's anything called as this. So I have decided to wind up this satsang. You are all released. You please go back to your lifestyle, your own, whatever lifestyle you are leading, whatever you are carrying on, please go back. So he forcibly pushed them out of the premises. They thought the Guru was playing a joke, nothing doing. Seriously, I am shutting down thing. You please all leave. And after packing them up, he was really relieved of all the effort he's putting. So he actually slept on the Vishnu posture. He put on his hand on his head to his side and he rested. And apparently it is said he attained moksha not while sitting and meditating in that posture. So it is not that effort that got him the realization, it is the renunciation of the anxiety of the fruit that got him that realization. So that is quoted in the context just to tell us what follows renunciation is peace at the relative level and at the absolute level. So right now you're holding on to something. Let go of that. Something that you're being possessed with. It is not you holding on to something. Whatever you're holding on to is actually holding you. It could be what it could be. It could be anything. I was about to ask Panikraj and he raised his hand. Yes, sir.
Guruji, it is like neki kar darya mein dal. There is a very simple version of renunciation. Like whatever you have achieved throughout your life, you have worked for that, and you have finally you attain that, and then you renounce it. You get rid of that. It is called neki kar darya mein dal. This is something which I can correlate.
Neki kar darya mein dal. Have I said it right?
Yes, yes.
I am not able to relate to that idea. Is it in Hindi? Is it?
Yes, yes. This is in Hindi. I think people who are familiar with this phrase. There is a phrase actually. It's a this thing. In a very local, in a very this thing domestic.
Colloquial usage.
Colloquial,
Okay. No, end of the day, it is paramount that one practices that spirit of renunciation or vairagya. If you're not, you're asking for it's actually self-inflicting suffering. You're unnecessarily possessed by it. because it consumes you, isn't it? Whatever that you're seeking consumes you. Okay. Now, the verse seems to be contradictory, but the language is used is a deliberate language of contradiction. And the deliberate language of contradiction, whenever the Shastras use this language of contradiction, is only to make you think. So the first line, he says, better indeed is knowledge than practice. Which the truth is, we all say, what is the use of all the knowledge if you are not able to practice, isn't it? You should walk the talk. No point merely giving lectures to others, but you should be in a position that your actions speak more greatly than what you speak or what you advocate. But here the statement is exactly the opposite. But when he says knowledge is better than practice, here the practice here has a specific interpretation. Now the practice here refers to mechanical rituals one performs in the spiritual field. When you perform the rituals mechanically, without understanding the implication behind the performance, such mechanical rituals are meaningless, are useless. Therefore, he says, you must have the knowledge. Knowledge is better than merely practicing. Here, the practice refers to mechanical rituals. Therefore, the sentence is right when he says, better indeed is knowledge than practice. Vijayji, do you know why do you break a coconut in a temple?
No, other than it's considered a good luck. Because first the coconut is, I mean, I know the coconut, if it's used in a puja, then that represents the prasad from the puja itself. But beginning of a like you buy a car or something like that, you break a nariyal. I have no clue why they do that. Maybe the breaking of the ego. I don't know.
I can understand the coconut chutney, which is very useful after the puja. No, that apart, I think coconut has a more significance than the coconut chutney. Please, Vijayji, don't say only coconut chutney. Huh? What is the, see, amongst all fruits, coconut is used as symbolic, as an offering. So, and it is taken in a particular form, you know. I think that we have answered this question in the Wisdom Conversations book. I'm sure you have that book with you, don't you?
Yes.
Yeah, I would, if I get into it, another 15, 20 minutes is gone. But all I can say is, you rightly said the coconut symbolizes the individuality or the ego. So there is no better equivalent comparison to a human being to a coconut. So the coconut in which form is taken to the temple symbolizes what is the level of a student who or a level of a devotee who visits the temple. And every aspect of the coconut actually is compared to a human being. The gross, subtle, causal, the 3 dots, the little coil left, the pujari breaking the coconut, and so on. I would want all of you to refer the book. Do we have the question number? Is it easy to draw it out, Gayatri Ma? Or anybody who can, so it will help as a quick reference to everybody. So no point performing the ritual of breaking the coconut without understanding what is the implication. But the moment you understand the reasoning or the rationale behind why you're performing that ritual, it lifts the entire act of performing the ritual itself.
Yeah, Guruji, it is 80th question, page 173.
There you go. Question number 80, page 173. Thanks, Mark. Therefore, it is not wrong to say knowledge is superior to practice. And then he says, better than knowledge is meditation. Now, meditation here is not referring to sitting in the posture of dhyana, what we usually refer to. What is meditation here? Meditation refers to any constant, consistent application. When you have a sense of consistency to an application, it is called here as meditation. So a consistent, constant application. So what is the use of knowing something without having a sense of consistency to that action? So what gives you the fruit is the consistency to action. In that sense, meditation, which is consistency, is superior to merely knowing it. Oh, I know to do yoga, but once in a month I do yoga. Then you will not result in any health. You will only talk about yoga to others, but you will not do yoga. So one is to know it, yet another thing is to consistently practice it. So mere knowledge is of no good. It is useless to you unless and until it is consistently applied in your life. Whatever you do, you must have that consistency. So the word meditation refers to consistent, constant application. Okay. Let me finish this thought, then I'll come to your Panigraji. Okay. Let me finish the thought flow. Then he says, better than meditation is renunciation of fruit of action. Now, how do you understand this? Ramji, better than meditation is renunciation of fruit of action. So how do you explain this?
I suppose meditation is referring to constant and consistent application of knowledge. That means you are applying the knowledge in action. You are using the knowledge as a background for your action. But while doing that action, if you are not attached to the outcome of that action, if you renounce the outcome of that action, then that is even better than the constant application that you are doing. Although it's very difficult to understand it, but I think in a layman's terms, that's how I could say.
So if a person is consistently acting, what is he acting for?
Some
Obviously,
result.
there's a fruit result.
Some fruit, yeah.
There is a natural consequence of him attaching to the fruit.
Absolutely.
Therefore, he says, renunciation of fruit is better than meditation.
But that holds good for any action, not just a meditation-based action.
No, he is not, as I said, meditation here not refers to dhyana.
No, I
meditation
know.
here refers
meditation
to that
is a constant application, consistent and
consistency.
Constant
Yes. So anything that you're consistently performing, like I can be a seeker in the spiritual field doing continuous sadhana.
yeah.
Okay. Now,
Absolutely.
while I'm doing, I could have anxiety for the fruit, isn't it?
Yeah.
See, none of you have known me enough to know where I was, where I am now, if you can assess. But someone who has been with me for a while and knows me in close quarters, knows my personality in and out, that person, if that person were to tell, no, I actually see a change in you. There has been that change. So there is that fruit that you're seeking. But while I'm acting, if I'm interested in the fruit, no use, isn't it? Therefore, he says renunciation of fruit of action is better than consistent sadhana, because you might develop an attachment to the fruit. So since he does not take it for granted, he spells it out and saying, end of the day, you need to understand what you're doing. You need to do consistently do what you understand. While you're consistently doing, renounce the fruit. Then you get the fruit. What is the fruit here?
It could be anything. I mean, here perhaps he is referring to even spiritual progress could be the fruit. Or normally fruit is referred to in terms of selfish gain, right? When you say renounce fruit, we normally refer to selfish gain, right?
Yeah, any outcome. You
Any
may
outcome.
have, you can say a selfish or any outcome. But here in the moment where there's renunciation, the verse says, peace immediately follows
Right.
renunciation. Anantaram, immediate. The moment you give up your anxiety, the moment you inject renunciation, instantly there is peace. It seems so obvious to him, but it is one of the most difficult thing to practice, isn't it? Something that you are being gripped by, something that you're consumed by, I tell you to drop it. Not easy. So each one of us, at some degree or other, there's something that is opposite of renunciation is
Attachment.
you're mentally attached.
Right.
So inject that spirit of renunciation. So if you use those words, those concepts to interpret the seemingly contradictory choice of words, then the verse has a meaning. Otherwise, we'll only get confused. What is he saying this? Why is he saying it?
Yes, sir.
You get it, sir?
Yes, sir.
Right. Panigraji?
Guruji, actually, it is in the context of when we this thing get this concept of knowledge is better than practice. Actually, this is a age-old conviction which I have been noticing. For a beginner, whenever he tries to read Gita and doesn't understand, it is very often advised that you read Gita even if you don't understand. Start reading it. And there is a particular episode in Ramayana. It's when Valmiki, he was a great, I think, he was a robber. And when somebody advised that you start this thing repeating Mara Mara, because it was difficult on his part to this thing recite Ram. He was not knowing what is Ram is all about. Then he started doing that Mara 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 Mara. Then eventually he could pronounce this Ram. So what I mean to say that when we this thing get this concept of knowledge is better than practice, I think from the beginner point of view, when somebody wants to start something, he will not have the knowledge. He has to do that practice. So there's something contradictory. It's difficult for me to digest this concept of this thing, that knowledge is better than practice. One has to do that practice to have that knowledge. And then, of course, you may think of renunciation. That's it. But when we talk of knowledge is better than practice, in the context of the two examples that I gave, anyway, and it's a little difficult for me to appreciate that.
You know what you have successfully done is you have confused us. At least I have completely confused. First of all, Lord Krishna is confusing us. Above that, you also assume the lordship, like we said other day, no? You also become Bhagwan, and now you are confusing us further. Now, why are you putting us through such difficult situations? Huh?
In fact, I just wanted from a beginner point of view, if somebody has to start this thing, reading Gita, he is always
Yeah.
that. I have seen that ये that पहले पढ़ते जाओ. You go through that, even if you do not understand. Then time will come when you will start appreciating or start internalizing or realizing.
No, I don't see anything wrong in what you are saying. From an independent perspective, what you're saying is right, but don't mix it in the context. In the context, it has a specific implication. When you practice something, when he says knowledge is better than practice, he means practicing of the mechanical rituals. When you practice mechanical rituals without the knowledge, the practice that you do, like I said, you carry a coconut to a temple, you put a tilak, you do 3 rounds around the sanctum sanctorum. Why do you take a vibhuti? You either put 3 stripes vertically or horizontally. Yes, because rituals are an integral part of any religious practice, any spiritual exercise. But if you do them mechanically, it doesn't serve you, it doesn't help you in your growth. Therefore, he says knowledge is better than practice. So it's a specific contextual usage. Let us not quote this out of context of this verse. Then we will completely go wrong. But what you're saying, sorry, what you're saying independently is true. That if even somebody doesn't understand, you start with it, and perhaps slowly you'll start questioning what it is, and maybe you will be able to understand the relevance of it. So I don't see any contradiction, but don't mix the context don't take this out of context. It will only confuse you further. Okay, sir? So if you stick to the context where the practice here refers to mechanical rituals, so don't perform any ritual mechanically. It's better for you to understand.
From a
And then he
beginner,
says, sorry?
to start doing something. If from the beginner's point of view, one has to, let's say, a kid is advised that when you go to the temple, hold your hand and bow down, something like that. So kid does that because his father and mother is telling like that. So from the beginner point of view, it is always it's natural that he has to do the practice without even that knowledge that why one should go to the temple, why one should put that ghanta and chandan, something like that. So then,
I don't know. I don't know whether your mother did to you, but my mother used to do to me. You know what she used to do? Whenever we used to go to the temple, and I remember very vividly, we used to go very religiously to Tirupati, almost yearly once, or if I'm not wrong, maybe twice a year, minimum once a year we used to go. And it's a whole exercise of going, planning for the trip. You spend 10-15 hours in the queue, and the time comes where you are about to reach the sanctum sanctorum. You are just getting glimpses of the Lord, and you're coming a few feet away from the Lord, and you're able to get the glimpse. And my mother used to say, close your eyes. Huh? I said, what are you saying? Have we come here to close eyes? Because they say, when you're praying, they say, close your eyes. No, you close your eyes. And my mother used to say, close your eyes. I said, why should I close my eyes? I've come all the way. I've been 15 hours sitting there in the queue and standing to see the Lord. Now you say, close eyes. And she used to put her hand on my eyes. And so the gap I used to see, the more I used to see. I said, what is this tamasha going on? I never understood. You get it? Now, there could be many ritualistic practices we follow blindly. But sir, I ask you, why do you close your eyes when you're standing in front of the Lord?
Because Lord is better seen inside than outside.
Then why do you go to the temple then? Sit in the house and close your eyes, no?
Actually,
Why do you have to take the journey?
That's correct. That is also one school of thought. But when you go to the temple, you get an environment, you get a external this thing here. When you are kind of, even if you are trying to distract yourself, then you will be coming back to that. It's a symbolic this thing environment that is created when you can focus on the spiritualism and things like that.
See, the symbolism behind closing your eyes is to tell you that even though you see God outside, it is not objective, it is a subjective within. It is God is right within you, not outside. So just to indicate that, we have been told to close our eyes. So don't practice things mechanically without understanding the deeper meaning. That's the context. All right. Okay. What is it Vijay is saying?
I was just commenting on the earlier question. I think the confusion was there that knowledge of course, says knowledge is better than practice, but it's not saying not to do the practice. The practice initially comes when children go to the temple, they follow the adults. Adults are doing this, they do this, they go around, they do the agarbatti, the arti, whatever have you. So the practice is part and parcel of introducing themselves to the dharmic practices. Later on, when they get inquisitive, okay, why we do this, why we do that, then the knowledge part kicks in. So it's not saying not to do the practice, it's just saying knowledge is better than practice. That's it. It's just giving you the hierarchy, I guess.
Mm.
That's all.
Yes, Chief. Before I hear any more clarifications, mantra 13, please. Quickly move on. We need to renounce this 12th verse. Adveshtha sarvabhutana maitra karuna eva cha nirmamo nirahankaraha samadukha sukha kshami. Adveshtha sarvabhutana maitra karuna eva cha nirmamo nirahankaraha samadukha sukha kshami. So this begins the third and the last topic of the 12th chapter, where he talks of 35 qualities of a devotee of God. So if you consider yourself, many people say, sir, I am not a jnani, I am not that knowledgeable, I am not that intellectual, I would want to be a bhakta, I am a devotee of God. Now, those of you who consider yourself devotees of God, please cross-check whether these qualities are there in you, because the Lord says, he who has these qualities, he is my devotee. It's not whether you consider yourself as Lord's devotee, whether Lord consider you as his devotee. That's important. So the Lord gives these qualities. So the few qualities enumerated in the 13th verse are, first he says, Adveshtha Sarvabhutanam. He who does not hate any being. I'll explain what all these qualities are. But firstly, he says, he who doesn't hate any being. Then Maitraha means friendly. Karunaha means compassionate. Nirmamaha, without the I-ness or minus. Which you can also call as free from attachment. Nirahankaraha, free from egoism. Samadukha sukha, balanced in pleasure and pain. Kshami, forgiving. So the 7 qualities are there in the 13th verse. So what are the qualities of a devotee of God? Qualities of devotion. Now, it's important to note that love and devotion are the same emotion. When you have love to somebody, what is love for somebody? When you love somebody, your feelings or emotions are going towards that person. There is that identification with that person. So when you identify with that person, that emotion of identifying with other person is love. But when the emotions are going from you to somebody lower than you, it is called as love. But the same emotion, when it's going from you to somebody higher, is called devotion. So there is no difference in the emotion between love and devotion, but it's only the direction. For example, we say, I love my child. You say, I love my house. You love your belongings. You love your job. You love your pet. So anything, you love your family. So anything in power or lower than you, it's love. But when the same emotion goes to something higher, what do you say? You don't say you love God. You don't say you love your teacher. The language changes. What would you say, Gayatri Ma?
For God, we say, I have bhakti for God.
Bhakti for God means what? I
A devotion towards God.
am devoted to my God. You could say, I'm devoted to my parents. You am devoted to work. I'm devoted to knowledge. So the moment it becomes anything higher than you, it becomes devotion. Anything at that level lower than you, it becomes love. So he paints a new picture of what bhakti is. That's the interesting part. So it will revolutionize the whole concept of bhakti. Not many people look at it bhakti in this way. The whole concept of devotion today is, what is the concept of devotion today? What is the concept of devotion today? And then you can, okay, please unmute Srinivas Garu, and then we'll get the answer from whoever it is.
At this moment, it's only rituals, Guruji.
Okay. The devotion is rituals. What else? Not wrong at all. People perform various rituals in the name of their devotion to God, the various offerings, the various pilgrimages. Correct?
Yes, Guruji.
Yes, sir. What else? Okay. Panigaraji, what else is the concept of?
Is a faith, it is a commitment, it is believing in and working for something, that is devotion. If you are committed to somebody, if you are respectful to somebody, if you strongly believe in that, yeah, that is devotion.
That is devotion, is it? Okay. What else is devotion? Now, if you compare, you do a comparison to what is being said here to what is the perceived notion of the practices, you see the disparity. Okay, now let's get on to the first quality. The first quality, he says, Adveshta Sarvabhutanam. Adveshta Sarvabhutanam means not hating any being. A very unusual, a very unexpected beginning, and a very interesting way he puts it. One who does not hate any being. Instead of saying one who loves everybody, he says he does not hate anybody. Because our general concept or understanding would be, if I have 80%, I'm able to love everybody, irrespective of their caste, irrespective of their social status, irrespective of their religion or region. If I'm able to love them, then you can say my love to God is measured with that person. If I have 80% love, that means you have 80% love for God, isn't it? But he says, he does not put it in a positive way, he puts it in a negative way. The moment you hate one person, that is your level. You fail. It is not how many people you love, it is how many people you hate. So a true devotee of God has no reason to hate any quarter, any person in the world. So if you hate one person, that is your devotion to God. It could be an employer, it could be an employee, it could be a person of a particular region, religion, doesn't matter. And interestingly, he says hates any being. It includes other creatures also. If you hate a cockroach, that is your level of devotion to God. You can't hate a cockroach also. You can't hate anything, anybody, no being. And the concept that justifies what he's saying here is, there's a saying, the strength of a chain is its weakest link. The strength of a chain is its weakest link. For example, if I'm trying to tie a chain around a locomotive, I'm trying to pull the locomotive. It's a solid iron chain. It has the hooks of solid iron, but one of the links is a very weak link. Let's say perhaps it is made of very weak metal or plastic link. Now the strength of a chain doesn't depend on all the other solid links. It depends on that weak link. The strength of a chain is its weakest link. So your level of devotion to God is based on not how many people you love, but the moment you hate somebody, that is your test. You fall there, you fail there. Now the question is, what is the reason one engenders hatred to another? What is the reason one engenders hatred? What's the cause of hatred? Or rather, you can say, how is hatred born in your bosom? What is the cause of it? Before I get to that question, Panigraji, yes, sir. We can't hear you, sir.
Not
Yes.
Somebody may not mean that you love somebody. It could mean indifference also. It could mean ignorance also. It could mean so many things.
What is it? Sorry, I don't understand what you're saying, sir.
Not hating somebody. One should not hate somebody. That is what is one of the attributes of a devotee.
A devotee. Yes.
So, but not hating somebody doesn't mean that I love somebody. It could mean indifference, it could mean ignorance, it could mean so many things, but not necessarily love. Love means a sense of attachment, love means a sense of belief, love means a sense of commitment also. Not hating, that is okay, but not hating means it doesn't mean that one loves somebody. That I mean.
That is Panigraj's definition of love.
That I just trying to this thing, not hating somebody. That is definitely a very fundamental quality of. But that doesn't mean that one loves somebody.
Sir, love is absence of hatred. That's all. That's what is being said.
But it could mean ignorance. It could mean indifference.
Dude, that is tamas. Ignorance is tamas. Indifference also is tamas. So from height of sattva, you're talking tamasic quality. How is it possible? So love, having love for you means I have no hatred to you. They are two sides of the same coin. How can you say it is anything else? But instead of saying you love everybody, he is putting it in a negative way to highlight the same quality, so that you'll start working on your areas of your hatred, because otherwise there is no growth. Otherwise you don't know where your strengths are, where your weaknesses are. You get it? Otherwise I'll be sitting good on my assumption that I have 80% love, but I hate that particular community. I tell you, the sight or mention of that countryman or that region or that people, my blood boils. Or the political party you talk of, I tell you, I want to, possible, I can take arms and take revenge against them. Alright? You may love everybody else than them. But he says, start working on that. That is your weakness. That is where you fail. That is your true love for God. So he is intentionally putting it in a negative tone so that you start working on it. Just because you're 80% love, that doesn't mean you have 80% love for God. No. That's why we said strength of a chain, it doesn't depend on the links which are strong. It depends on the weak link, because you will not be able to pull the locomotive. The chain will snap. So when I say I have no hatred for you, means I have love for you. That's how it is being interpreted. Both are two sides of a same coin. But ignorance and indifference, again, is a sign of tamas, which is not being considered, can't be taken into account, because you're talking of sattvic quality here. I hope you're able to relate to the context. Okay, sir?
In simple way that you may not love everybody, but you should not hate people. So if you are not able to love, then don't hate at least.
Sir, when we say, I think your concept of love is expressing love. You are trying to understand love as an obligation. There doesn't have to be an obligation when you say you love somebody. There is no contractual love. You may love your child because it's an obligation. As a father, you love your child. You're using in those contexts. It is not being used as a love in a relationship. It is not that. Sir, I may not like a particular race or a particular aspect, and I have no reason. I don't even know them, but I start hating them. What it does, it creates a certain amount of negativity in me. But when I say I don't hate them, doesn't mean I don't even know who they are, but I have no reservations against them. They are also spiritual seekers, I may say. They're also living beings, so they're also human beings. They also have a right to live, and so on. So I don't hold back any feelings for them.
Thank you.
Or I hold back some feelings with certain reservations. That's the difference there. So I think that the definition of love is being interpreted in a different way. That's the reason there's you might find it difficult to understand the context. But here, as I said, love is absence of hatred or otherness. So how is hatred born towards anybody? Because of hatred, you create a dislike or unpleasantness. But what is the cause of hatred? A sense of separation or non-identification is the cause of hatred. True. Non-identification creates a sense of otherness. So when I don't identify with you, there is a sense of otherness. And it's otherness that creates hatred. What creates otherness? It is the identification with your material equipments. When you identify with my body, when you identify with your mind, when you identify with your intellect, there will be otherness. But the moment you don't identify with your individuality, the moment you identify with the common denominator, you identify with the self, you instantly see the oneness. You're attached or identify with the equipments, there's bound to be differences. There are bound to be otherness that creates hatred. So the question is, you have no, when I say question, the point here is what the verse is saying, whatever be the reason, you cannot justify your feeling of hatred, irrespective what the other person has done to you. Whatever the world does to you, you can't justify your feeling of hatred or animosity to the other. Just because the world has treated you badly, you can't justify in maintaining your ill feeling towards them. So it is that feeling of camaraderie, it is that feeling of brotherhood, it is that feeling of affection that determines the quality of bhakti or love. So even if other person insults you, other person does anything to you, you don't justify your hatred to other person. So it actually puts that real quality of love. If I am kind to you, you are kind to me is no big deal. No big deal. If I'm courteous to you, you return that courteousness back to me. No big deal. The world is unkind to you, and if you're kind to me, that is the real quality of your kindness, isn't it? So if the world hates you, you still justify to love the world. That is your true love. Yes, Harish.
So, Guruji, would it be correct to say that when somebody is hurting us, that we should understand that the other person is operating based on their vasanas and gunas as well, of how they're treating us? So we accept their vasanas and gunas, which is who they are. So they're operating in that space. And also on top of that, they are an instrument to, because that person who hurts us is also a karmic act. So that person has also come as an instrument to finish our karma as well, in addition to the vasanas and gunas. Would that be the right understanding, Guruji?
Indeed, if you can understand it that other person is helplessly operating on his vasanas, on his gunas, point one. Secondly, if the person intentionally or unintentionally, his actions affect you and you become a victim of that person's action, it is a karmic effect. So I have no choice but to experience it gracefully without harboring or engendering hatred in my bosom. Because if I have that hatred to the other person, I am the person who is suffering. It's not the other person. The moment my mind entertains negative emotions, instantly it starts affecting the physiology, the psychology within me. It affects my entire inner balance. It derails me. So I am expected not to engender hatred for my own well-being. In fact, the seventh quality is going to talk of forgiving. You must learn to forgive another person's shortcomings. So you become mature to a point where you forgive other person's imperfections only to restore your own inner peace and sanctity. So if you're able to entertain these two beautiful points that you've made, but that doesn't mean you continue to expose yourself to his gunas or vasanas. If you know it is that person's guna to be temperamental or he has a particular quality, why should you expose and become victim of his or her actions? You can be smart in your relationship with the other person. So you don't have to subject yourself to suffering. When you become victim of others' actions, whether intentionally or unintentionally, you can take those 2 points, but don't expose yourself unintelligently. Because Vedanta says you shouldn't be a victim of other person's actions. If it happens, so be it. But you don't intentionally go and have an argument with a drunkard. That fellow is not in his senses. Why you want to go and develop an argument get into an argument with an insane fellow? He's not in his senses. He doesn't know what he's going to do. Then you say, oh, sir, he came and hit me with a stick and I've broken my arm. Oh, that is my karma. Oh, why did you go into a brawl? Knowing well he's drunk, I'm saying in future, don't get into a brawl. You get what I'm saying?
Yes. And Guruji, when the other person is operating helplessly through their gunas and vasanas by hurting somebody, does that also mean that they have created a fresh karma for themselves in the future?
Is that going to comfort you if I say yes?
No, it's just for me to understand, to grow better within myself.
How will you grow if he's incurring karma? I don't understand that.
It's just when I'm creating
I don't trust you when you say that. I have trust issues when I hear that statement from you.
When I'm doing some action towards somebody myself, that I also understand the effect on myself karmically. If I'm intentionally or unintentionally hurting somebody, I should be mindful of my own actions and thoughts. In that context, I'm talking about the growth factor. So
no, I know you have not forgotten last week's question, that person waving hand, am I to stop and help him or not? I know now you have brought the question in a different form. I know you're too smart, Harish. I am not going to fall a trap to this. I will maintain my stance.
Thank you, Guruji.
See, I caught you, no? I know where you're coming from.
No, I mean, there are few the thoughts that are going. It's just trying to better calibrate my understanding for my internal growth going forward for all my actions as well.
No, absolutely. So what you're asking is if a person does actions based on his gunas
And
vasanas, so is he going to incur karmic effect? Yes, obviously. Every action has an effect. Just because I'm ignorant of that act doesn't protect me from the consequences of the act. It doesn't protect. Ignorance doesn't protect you.
Thank you, Guruji.
Thank you. Thank you, Harish. Always welcome. Yes, Vijay.
I had a doubt about this. The 7 qualities of devotee of a devotee of God. If your job is to be on the battlefield, provide security for the country or for police or whatever have you, it's quite easy to go into this rage mode of them hurting fellow citizens by bombing uh, uh, our nation, and from that space you tend to fight back. It's so walking that fine line of not hating. It's easy to hate your enemy in that regard, or it's very hard to be friendly and compassionate towards those beings in that regard. So does that mean till the time we are experiencing that, we then drop in our level of devotion to God till we get to a state of peace and calm, and then we're back up again? Like, how does that work?
See, Arjuna had the same predicament, didn't he?
Yes.
He became very emotional. He was trying to be compassionate, say, how can I kill my own cousins? How can I kill my own guru? How can I kill my own grandsire? And so on. He forgot that he is fighting a war, and all those people arrayed in the opposite army were supporting adharma. So he cannot afford to allow those emotions to come and interfere with his duty or his performance of dharma. And much more, he was a leader who was representing a dharmic cause. He was a leader of an army. It becomes his duty to lead the way, because otherwise the entire army will be disoriented. They don't know what's happening because the leader has collapsed. So when we talk of this context of Arjuna collapsing because of emotions, you understand a leader should not become emotional. Like, for example, sir, a surgeon, a doctor or a surgeon, as a thumb rule, if I'm not wrong, in the medical industry, surgeons, they don't operate on their own family members, because they are not able to look objectively the person on the operation table as another patient. The emotions comes and disturb their sanity and their ability to perform that job well. So is the job of a soldier. His job is to protect the country. Just because, so there could be a mischief created by a certain group within the country. It doesn't have to be somebody outsider coming and attacking you. There could be forces causing disruption. So your job is to bring in a sense of peace, decorum, and serenity, that life can go on without any disturbance. So I do my job. So as a surgeon will have to have that challenge, as a soldier also will have to, and Arjuna was advised, end of the day, Arjuna was advised to fight against his own guru. Don't bring your emotion into the picture. Similarly here, a soldier should not afford to inject emotion into his action. So he has to do his duty. So that is where you do your act objectively. When you are objective, then emotion doesn't come and interfere. So otherwise, emotions come and disturb the performance of action.
So dharma trumps devotion. Is that what you're saying?
Dharma is, thereafter dharma itself is devotion. Dharma is upholding devotion. Just because in the process of me upholding dharma, I go and do my act, but I have not engendered hatred, no? So I'm not violating the quality of not hating any being. I'm not having any hatred to the other person. Yet if I had to take my gun and shoot, I did what my job demanded me to do. But I have no hatred to the other person. So the mind is very pure. It doesn't have any hatred. So it is here, it is duty above emotion. And the acid test is there is no otherness or animosity there. It's duty bound actions. In the last week, we spoke about selfless actions. Such as selfless actions, motiveless actions. But if a person acts with that emotion of hatred, he develops more hatred towards others because he's operating on hatred. But a soldier, when he does his act, he doesn't develop more desires to kill, does he? He has no desire to kill. He's just doing his job. Okay, sir. So this is the first quality. We will go through each of the qualities because each of them have a great practical applicability. So these 35 qualities can be approached as an applied philosophy. So it's very relatable. So you can start looking at it from your own workplace or how you can apply it in your own life, and you will see a great relevance of this section of the text in particular. Okay, we'll continue from the second quality next class. Okay. Om Purnamada Purnamidam Purnat Purnamudachyate Purnasya Purnamadaya Purnamevavashishyate. Om Shanti Shanti Shanti. Hari Om. Shri Gurubhyo Namah. Hari Om.